There is a quote by Oscar Wilde that I've always found interesting. Nothing that is worth knowing can be taught. When I was younger, I never really understood what that meant. But as older as I get, the more I see how much my identity, my culture, my sense of history, my way of thinking came from outside the classroom and not inside it. The classroom has taught me many things, but the things that made me who I am really did not come from books. I grew up studying in a convent school in India. On the surface, it looked like the perfect system. Everything was neat, everything was organized, everything was standardized. We had English as the main language, a national curriculum, a strict exam system, a structured, predictable school day. At the time, I never really questioned any of it. Everyone around me accepted it as the norm, and I accepted it too. But looking back, I realized there was a bigger issue hiding behind all that structure. The problem was not that the school had Western influences. The real problem was the idea that one single model of education could work for every student in a country as diverse as India. Everything was built around uniformity. Every student was expected to learn the same material in the same exact way, through the same language, with the same outcome. That's really not how human nature is. There was no space for differences we had within us, and that included parts of me that came from home, my language, my culture, and my family stories and my family history. One of the biggest parts of this standardization was language. English was everywhere, in the books, in the classroom, in the school announcements, even in the way we were expected to think. We were told to think in English. Now, to be fair, English has opened a lot of doors for me. It has helped me in ways I cannot deny. It made it easier for me to apply for higher education. It made it easier for me to immigrate to another country. It gave me access to certain books, resources, and opportunities. It helped me navigate global spaces and connect with people from all over the world. But there, it came with a cost, and I did not notice that until much later. When English becomes the main language of learning, students often start losing parts of their mother language without realizing it. It happened to me. I've had so many moments where I try to think of a simple word in Punjabi or Hindi, and I either forget it because I've never learned, or I've never learned it in the first place because school never used it. Even the small things, like for example, a word for a spice, a household item, a smell, a feeling. I know the English version, but I struggle to recall the word in my own language. It is not just forgetting a word, it is something deeper. It creates a distance between who I am at home and who I am supposed to be at school or outside. English helped me move forward, but it also quietly took a toll on me. And that is a kind of loss that's very hard to see when you're young. Language was one layer of this divide. The curriculum was another. India uses a national syllabus. This means a student in Punjab, Kerala, Gujarat, and Assam is learning the same exact content. There are benefits to this. It creates consistency and it gives everyone access to the same academic material. But it also creates a problem. India is a country with thousands of histories, thousands of languages, and thousands of cultural identities. A single curriculum cannot represent it all this. It really can't. And mine certainly did not. The history I learned in school felt really polished and put together and tidy. It was a story of national pride and of clear heroes and clear victories. But as they say, only the victorious write the history books. But the history I learned at home was not tidy at all. It was complicated. It had length to it. Like there was no clear good side usually, and there was not a clear bad side always. It was emotional, filled with pain, and sometimes filled with contradictions, as always. The textbook version of history felt like something you had to memorize, and the home version of history was like something you live and not read somewhere. And I slowly learned that school was not interested in the version you live. It only cared about the version that fits into a chapter, a narrative, and an exam. This is where Paulo Freire helped me understand what I was experiencing. Freire talks about the banking model of education, a system where teachers deposit information and students are expected to store it. There is no questioning, no discussion, no question to real life. The goal is memorization, not understanding. And when I read Freire, I realized that this model described my schooling really perfectly. The system did not want my personal knowledge, it wanted the official stamped version. It wanted the version that could be tested, graded, and standardized. Anything outside that framework was not really useful for them. So I learned something without meaning to. I learned to split myself into school knowledge and then home knowledge. One version was valid, and the other version was something I just kept to myself. Herbert Cole gave me another language for another part of my experience. In his piece, I Will Not Learn From You, Cole explains how students sometimes refuse to learn certain things because learning them would require giving up parts of themselves. He calls this not learning. It is not laziness or something like that. It is a form of self protection. When I read Cole, I recognized a lot of myself. I never openly refused to learn anything in school. I was a good student. I followed the rules. I did what I was supposed to. I did what I was told. But I did practice a quiet form of not learning. Whenever something in the class conflicted with what I knew from my family or community, I kept my personal knowledge separate. A really good example would be Mahatma Gandhi. There's a very polished version of his history that's been taught in India for a long time and even the world. But according to people who were there, my grandparents, my great grandparents, history is quite. It's not that polished. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So I never questioned the teacher. I never challenged the textbook. I just quietly told myself, this is the school version. This is what they want for exam. The real version stays with me. That separation was my way of protecting a part of my identity that school did not know how to hold. Cole helped me realize that this was not a failure on my part. It was a response to a system who had no room for who I was. The more I reflect, the more I understand that my critique is not about Western influence. India itself continues to support standardized schooling because it promises national unity and economic opportunity. The problem is not that the model is Western, the problem is that the model is uniform. Uniform systems cannot hold diverse identities. Uniform systems cannot reflect the complexity of lived experiences. A standardized model may work on paper, but real life is not like perfect or standard. Real people are not standard. I was not standard, and neither were my classmates. Looking back now, school taught me many useful things: how to write essays, how to study for exams, how to follow instructions, how to be disciplined. But it did not teach me who I am or where I come from or what my cultural identity means. I had to learn those things outside the classroom, from my family or my peers. I learned them through conversations with my parents, through community stories, through hearing my mother language spoken in certain tones that English can never quite capture, through moments that had nothing to do with tests, grades, or report cards. School taught me how to succeed academically. Home taught me how to understand myself. And the more I grow, the more I realize that education should bring these two together, not force students into choosing between them. If education is going to be meaningful, it has to make room for more than one kind of knowledge. It has to value family stories, personal experiences, mother languages, community memory, emotional truth, uh, regional histories, and multiple ways of thinking. These are not weaknesses, these are strengths. Fryer imagined classrooms where students help shape learning. Cole imagines classrooms where students can bring their identities without fear of losing them. My schooling was not that, but it could have been. It could have been. Uh, India is a diverse enough and rich enough. India is diverse enough and rich enough to build an education system that reflects all of that complexity. Sure, there are challenges, but the more I think about it, the more I believe that students should not have to leave parts of themselves outside the classroom door just to succeed on an exam. Well, repeating again, Oscar Wilde said, "Nothing that is worth knowing can be taught." Now, after all these years, I finally am getting what he meant by that. Schooling can give information, but identity is learned through living. Understanding comes from experiences, and real knowledge comes from places where life and learning meet. My project was about exploring the gap between what school teaches us and what life teaches us, and why both of them matter. Thank you for listening.